I remember the morning of March 1st, 1896, like it was yesterday. The air was thick with tension. Our warriors stood on the hill of Adwa, their spears and shield ready, while the Italians with their rifles and canoe moved in from below. It felt like the whole of Ethiopia was holding its breath. Would we win or would we fall like so many others under foreign rule? For months, Emperor Manelik too had been preparing for this day. When we heard that Italy was trying to take over our land, the emperor called on all Ethiopians to defend their country from every corner of the empire. Amhara, Oromo, Tigray and others. Men and women came, carry weapons, food and supplies. The army grew to nearly 100,000 strong. Even Empress Taytu Betul, a fearless leader, led thousands of soldiers herself. The Italians underestimated us. They thought we were untrained and weak, but they did not understand our land, our unity, or our will to fight. General Oresto, the Italian commander, led about 17,000 troops, including Italian soldiers and their African allies. They had modern weapons, but they made a fatal mistake. They divided their army into separate groups, thinking we wouldn't know how to strike. Before dawn, our scout reported that the Italians were moving through the Valley of Hills. That was their second mistake. They didn't realize that we knew the land far better than they did. Manelik and his general had a plan. We would let them come forward, surround them, and strike from all sides. As the sun rose, the battle began. The ground shook with gunfire, canoe blast, and the sound of warriors shouting. Our cavalry stormed down the hill, cutting through the enemy's line. Arrows and bullets filled the air. I saw the Italian soldiers struggling, confused by our sudden attack. Some ran, but there was nowhere to hide. In the midst of the course, I witnessed Empress Taytu's force capture enemy position, cutting off their supply lines. Our warriors fought with everything they had: spears, swords, and even bare hand. The Italians, exhausted and overwhelmed, began to fall apart. By midday, their army was in full retreat. Thousands lay dead, many surrendered. General Baratiri himself had fled, abandoning his men. When the dust settled, we knew we had won. Ethiopia had done what no other African nations has done before. We have defeated an European power and kept our independence. The news spread like wildfire, and across the land, people celebrated. I stood on the battlefield looking at the fallen enemies and the scattered weapons and the flags of our victory. I knew that victory had been made, that the Ethiopia would never be colonized, and the world would remember the Battle of Adwa forever. As the sun began to set over the hills of Adwa, the battlefield was still alive with the echoes of victory. The cries of our warriors filled the air, some shouting in triumph, others mourning fallen comrade. Though we had won, the cost was heavy. Brave men and women lay lifeless on the ground, their blood soaking into the soil they had died to defend. I walked through the battlefield, stepping carefully over broken rifles, shattered shields, and abandoned canoes. The Italian prisoners sat in ground, their faces pale with fear and disbelief. Some begged for mercy, others simply stared into the distance, too stunned to speak. Our leaders, including Ras Alula, Ras Mokena, and Ras Megesha, made sure they were treated with dignity. Ethiopia was not a land of cruelty, even to its enemies. Emperor Menelik too and Empress Taytu stood together on a hill, looking over the battlefield. Their faces were solemn but proud. They had done what many thought was impossible. The Italians had come to conquer, but they had been driven back, humiliated. Their dreams of making Ethiopia a colony was crushed. That night, the fire of celebration burned bright across our camp. Warriors sang songs of bravery, elders praised the wisdom of Manelik and Taytu, and the people rejoiced in the knowledge that Ethiopia was still free. I sat with my comrade, sharing food and stories of the battle. We laughed, we cried, and we remembered those who had fought beside us but did not live to see the victory. Days later, the Italian prisoners were marched away. The negotiation began. Italy had no choice but to accept defeat. Months later, in 1896, they signed the Treaty of Addis Ababa, recognizing Ethiopia's independence. No European power would ever dare claim our land again. As I sit here today, years after the fateful battle, I still remember it as if it were yesterday. The hills of Adwa are quiet now, but they hold the memories of that great day when Europeans stood against an empire and won. Our victory was not just for us, but for all of Africa. It showed the world that we were not weak, not helpless. We were strong, united, and determined to be freed. And so, whenever I see the Ethiopia flag waving in the wind, I smiled, knowing that it flies high because of what happened on that battlefield, because of the blood, the courage, and the unbreakable spirit of our people at the Battle of Adwa. Years passed, but the memory of Adwa never faded. The elders told the story to our children, and they to theirs. It became more than just a victory. It became a symbol of strength, our unity, and our right to govern ourselves. After the battle, Emperor Menelik too continued to strengthen Ethiopia. He built roads, modernized the army, and worked to unite the diverse people of the empire. Empress Taytu, just as wise and fearless as she had been on the battlefield, played a key role in shaping the future of the nation. She encouraged education, trade, and diplomacy, making sure Ethiopia remained strong in the face of foreign threats. The world took notice. In Europe, leaders were shocked that an African nation had defeated a modern European army. In Africa, our victory gave hope to other nations still under colonial rule. People whispered of Adwa in the streets of occupied land, dreaming of their own freedom. They would wait, plan, and one day they would try again. And so, we remain vigilant, always ready to defend our land, our culture, and our independence. I grew old, but each year, on the anniversary of Adwa, I climbed the hill where we had fought. I stood where our warriors had stood, where the ground had shaken with battle, where our ancestors had shed their blood for freedom. And as I stood there, I watched the sun rise over the land we had protected. I whispered the names of the fallen, promising never to forget, because Adwa was not just a victory, it was a lesson, a legacy, and a promise that Ethiopia would never bow to any foreign power. Not then, not now, and not ever. Thanks for watching. This is the end of the story. I believe you enjoy the history. Stay tuned for more history and cultures of Africa. We must learn and understand the background of our continent, Africa. Please do well to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel so you won't miss out of all the interesting histories and cultures of Africa.